As an EMT, I assist in helicopter rescues and primarily perform rescues on the ocean after shipwrecks and emergency plane landings. Rescues like this aren't too common. Both ocean and air travel are pretty safe and don't have accidents frequently, but they happen enough where I'm familiar with the process. One of these rescues occurred only a week ago, but it had some very particular irregularities. To begin, I was on call for an accident involving a fisherman yanked from his boat while trying to reel in an especially large fish. I boarded the helicopter and took off to where he was reported to be. When we were almost there, however, something else caught our attention. To our left was an island, where our pilot could just barely make out 6 figures on the beach, waving and signaling for help. They didn't look in too rough a shape, but after seeing 2 people collapse on the ground behind them, we thought we should check it out. The island's more or less in the middle of nowhere, so I was pretty taken aback when we landed and I saw what appeared to be a younger version of Tom Brady running to where we were. When he reached us, he firmly shook my hand, and he had an ecstatic look on his face. "I'm ready to get back to the football field," said Brady, before leading me to the others on the island. We walked over to them, and to my complete surprise, Tom Brady wasn't the only celebrity deserted on the island. Standing on the island's beach was Albert Einstein, Elvis Presley, Nikki Haley, and even Dr. McLennan from Mountain Lake Plastic Surgery in Vermont. Collapsed and lying next to the fire pit was XAE-12 Musk, who had come down with a sickness, and Harrison Ford, who had apparently gotten into a fight with some kind of monster whilst on the island. I tried to get over my astonishment, but it's difficult when all these celebrities are right there in front of me. However, I did my EMT stuff, like administering first aid to Harrison Ford and XAE-12, and I also got out emergency blankets and rations for the cold and hungry islanders. "No need for the extra food," said a voice from behind me. I turned to see Gordon Ramsay coming towards us, carrying an assortment of wild plants and a seabird, which he had evidently just caught. "I've got lunch right here," he said. At that, we gathered around the fire pit they had constructed on the beach, and Gordon Ramsay began preparing the meal. During this time, I called my headquarters to inform them the fishermen still needed saving, and then settled in by the fire pit next to the others. I explained to them that we only had 2 helicopters and they were both in use, so only 4 of them would be able to come back with us on our first trip. Everyone else would have to remain on the island. At this, cries broke out. Shouts of "Take me! I'm more important than him, and I better be on that helicopter" filled the air. I tried my best to reassure them. Help would eventually arrive for them, I said, even though I fully knew there was no telling how long it might take. I finally got them to settle down, and I told them I'd use my medical expertise to determine who was fit to remain till the next helicopter arrived. In reality, my plan was simply to save who I felt was most important. So I began making decisions with my pilot on who we would take or leave. The first choice was easy. We'd leave Tom Brady on the island. I'm not a football fan to begin with, and we don't need him bringing a 3rd team to the Super Bowl once he comes out of retirement. Secondly, we chose to leave Harrison Ford on the island. He can survive on his own after being Indiana Jones his whole career. I knew we had to bring Einstein with us. There was no way we could leave the most influential physicist of all time behind on that island. Easy choice. The next few were a little bit harder. I chose to leave XAE-12 Musk on the island. His dad could pick him up later, and I could sell the location of the island to him. We're definitely taking Gordon Ramsay. I could use some good cooking, and I'll hire him with the money from Elon Musk. We elected to bring Elvis too. He's one of the most famous singers in history, and we'll end up bringing 2 people back from the dead during this rescue. That's going to be crazy. Finally, we can't forget Dr. McLennan. It's important for me to protect my local community in Vermont and to support local businesses. There's no way we can possibly leave this well-respected plastic surgeon behind on this island. Nikki Haley will be left on the island too. Her presidential campaign's over, so it's fine. After these decisions came the task of informing the islanders of who I would take with me and who would be left behind. I wearily approached the group, unsure of how I would share the news. "I'm ready to take 4 of you home," I said. Unlike earlier, my mention that some people would be left behind was met with silence. I listed the names of who I would take with me: Einstein, Elvis, Gordon Ramsay, and Dr. McLennan. Then the yelling broke out. I quickly grabbed the 4 of them and rushed to the helicopter. The others were mad to be left behind. And apparently, they didn't fall for the story about me using medical expertise either. I ushered the 4 of them onto the helicopter, and we took off. Before we left the ground, Tom Brady frantically grabbed the door, yelling, "Take me back to the football field," before letting go as we climbed into the air. On our way home, I began to talk to the Islanders who I had rescued. I was particularly curious as to how Einstein and Elvis not only got to the island, but entered our time period. The 2 were unsure and cited the same story, that they had appeared on the island last Thursday, along with all the others, and that nothing had ever happened prior to that. I was confused at how this could happen, but they informed me that I didn't exist before last Thursday either, and that nothing did. Everything was created last Thursday, just as it was. I was a little worried hearing this, and I began questioning whether or not it was the right thing to bring these people back. Maybe I should have chosen the others. At least they wouldn't insist everything was created last Thursday, I hope. The rest of the flight back was quiet and uneventful. I knew during the last few minutes of the flight that once we got back, we'd make headlines all over the country. The story of celebrities stranded on an island, rescued by helicopter, Elvis and Einstein coming back from the dead, and the unfortunate tragedy or miracle of Tom Brady remaining unrescued. To this day, I'm still clueless as to how the 8 of them ended up on that island. Thank you. And in case you were wondering, Elon Musk paid me $2.3 million for the location of the island.